is that uh, everyone has to pay, that everyone's going to have some skin in the game. And I believe we do that. We have some additional gas tax. We have taxes on construction, manufacturing, commercial, and residential that are I think small in nature, but they add up as we look across the state. We also put some fees and taxes on bikes, on for hire vehicles, on ferries, buses, and light rail. And the idea is that it's time that everyone has to contribute, and that's what I think we've done here. But as you can see, the main source of the revenue comes from the shift in the sales and use tax on vehicles from the operating budget. And of course, we all know that's a hard sell for the operating budget. But the way I've looked at this is that the transportation system has been supporting and the operating budget for the last 50 or 60 years. Every time we build a new bridge, every time we fix an interchange, every time we add a new interchange, there is economic development that takes place. So other than in connecting Washington, we've also been collecting sales tax on those highway projects. So that all goes to the operating budget. But then look at the economic impact that the transportation system has, particularly when we have new projects or are improving an interchange. That economic development brings jobs. Those jobs bring wages. Those people that make those wages go out and spend it. And again, it can be they buy a new house, you then have property tax, you spend money, you have sales tax. That doesn't come back to transportation. It all goes to the operating budget. So every time we do something new with transportation and improvement or whatever, those taxes that are generated from the economic benefit all go to the operating budget. So when you look at the sales tax and use tax on cars and trucks, there's more of a nexus to transportation than there is to the operating budget. And I would tell you that as we look at the changes that are occurring, we're trying to talk people through incentives to buy electric cars. We're going to talk a little bit about hydrogen vehicles and getting people to use transit and light rail. I mean, the emphasis has all been pushing people that way. Well, that just takes away from the funding for transportation, and we've seen that happen. So I would like to show my point, because I believe that if we can move this, make this shift and move money from the operating budget, the sales tax, to transportation, that we will, as we invest that money, we will return to the operating budget at least the same amount of money that they're giving up. And I believe it could be 2 or 3 times the amount they're giving up if we make the right investments. The example I would give you, and I've used it on numerous occasions, is a little project in Ridgefield outside of Vancouver. They have 42 acres of a brownfield that are ready for development. They need an $8 million overpass across tracks to get to that 42 acres and make it a viable piece of property. Once that's done, an $8 million investment, there's 250 million, probably 260 million dollars of economic value. So think about the value of the construction, the property tax increase, the sales tax that will be generated off of all of the things that go into that development. And then as you look at the people that will then be working there and their wages and how they spend that, all of those taxes go back to the operating budget. And that's what I mean by that. We have been supporting the operating budget for years. Even as I'll reiterate, even collecting taxes on the projects themselves, so that DOT and the transportation system is paying a sales tax that goes back to the operating budget. We can't afford to do that. It's time that the operating budget helps us. And again, I'll reiterate, if we do this right, the return to the operating budget will be at least the same, if not 2 or 3 times more. So The other aspect of it is this shift will not occur all at one time. It will occur over 5 years so that they can slowly adjust to those changes. So let's look then at solving our problems. So as we look at this proposal, we have, and looking at the way that DOT um, uh, uh, defines preservation, this proposal would put over $6 billion over the 8 years of the proposal into maintenance and preservation. It is where we have the most serious problems with our transportation system now. We have areas where DOT is saying if on a state highway, if the speed limit's under 45 miles an hour, we're not going to touch it because we don't have the money. We cannot let that happen. So this proposal, as I say, puts a lot of money into maintenance and preservation. It helps fund our culverts. When you look at that amount, you say, well, that's not what they're telling us they need. Well, you need to add in the money that's in Connecting Washington that's been committed to culverts. And I'm fairly certain we are going to receive some funding from the feds that we could put towards finishing that culvert and getting it off our plate and getting it done. We have to do that. And we have to do it in a way that's going to cost us less money than what we've been paying. We need to implement Senator Hobbs's bill about permit streamlining and reducing that cost, and look at every way that we can to change the way we have been repairing those culverts and reduce the length of time that it takes to get all the permits and then get the job done. We need to get in there and act like this is a crisis and get it done and get it beyond us. We also looked at funding our five of our major projects and getting those done. We've been talking about most of these for many years. The US 2 trestle, the Hood River Bridge, the I-5 bridge at Vancouver, finish Snoqualmie Pass, and then the latest one is the West Seattle Bridge. We have money in there to help get that done. That's a critical bridge that needs to be repaired as quickly as we possibly can for the sake of business and the people living in West Seattle and that area. So then, as we look at that, we also put 300 million into what we called hydrogen. So this is what I believe is the answer that we need to all electric. So all electric vehicles have had incentives for the last since 2009. So basically 12 years. In those 12 years, even with great incentives, not only from us, the state of Washington, but from the feds, we have now 64,000 electric vehicles in the state of Washington on our roads. But that's out of 7.4 million vehicles. So it hasn't exactly just gone crazy. And there's reasons for that. Because you get in an all-electric vehicle, you don't know, you're not assured where the next charging station is going to be. If you're going to be able to drive up and get to it immediately, you're going to have to wait a half hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then the time to charge it. All electric vehicles would be, all hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. You can pull into a station that's very similar to a gas station. You can fuel up in 5 minutes and you're out of there. I think that's a much better alternative, and we have to have alternatives because we cannot keep just putting everything into all electric. So we put money in there, $300 million. It would help with production of hydrogen, produce or implement or install service stations for hydrogen, would provide incentives for the purchase of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, buses, school buses and transit buses, and also looking at how we can do this with semis. We know that PACCAR, Kenworth in the state of Washington is doing this for I think 15 vehicles that are all going to California. Well, they can do it here in the state of Washington. That's jobs, that's green. It's the things that we want to do. So when you look then at why did I make this an 8-year 8-year package. Well, as I look at Connecting Washington, which was 16 years, we're in the 6th year, not even the 6th year, just close to 6 years. And we can see the changes and the challenges that we have that we didn't envision. So I'm saying, let's make this an 8-year package. The revenues keep continuing, they go on, but at the end of 7.5 years or somewhere in there, we pause and we say, okay, let's reevaluate where we're spending this money, how we're spending this money, what has changed, what's different. In 7 or 8 years, where's autonomous vehicles going to be in the scheme of all of this? I mean, there's all kinds of things that change, and we've seen that. This would give you the flexibility and allow those changes to be made in a manner that makes sense, that allow you to move forward. And if you need to add more money to one job to get it done, one project, then you can make those changes. And part of the reason why you see the funding at the levels they are on these projects is, for example, the bridge at Vancouver, it's not scheduled to be completed until 2030 or 2031. The US trestle, US 2 trestle will take to 2030 or 31. So, this only provides the funding to get you through the 8 years. So that is why I think it's reasonable to say this gives you the flexibility that we're going to need to make those adjustments and not just tie us in to a 16-year package, and that makes it very difficult to make changes. And I think the 8-year is a better look, would give us better results. So with that, I think that pretty much covers the thoughts behind the proposal that I've made here today, and I would be glad to try and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thanks a lot, Senator. I think we'll go first with Caro TV, if you can unmute. I don't think you're unmuted yet. Hi, Cairo, are you unmuted now?
Doesn't appear like it, Brian.
Okay. All right, we'll try next with Michelle with the Seattle Times. If you can unmute first.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
We can hear you.
Hey, I feel like I missed the first part and I don't think I've seen the full proposal yet. So I will have questions, but I just need to look over it first.
We'll make sure that you receive a copy of it if you haven't already. We thought we'd sent it out to everybody earlier, but we'll make sure you have one, and then feel free to give me a call.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Okay, let's try to get Cairo TV on here if we can. Can you unmute, Cairo? Yeah, we're still having some technical problem. Tracy, are you able to see if Cairo can be unmuted? The wonders of technology.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So,
okay, I guess for Cairo, you can email me your question, and we can pass on to Senator King and get that answered later on, if that will help.
well, to anyone that has questions, please just email them to my office, and we'll do our best to respond.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else there, Senator?
No, I think we're good. I just appreciate everybody's time, and I appreciate the opportunity to be before you and present a proposal that I think gives us a little different look at how we can move our transportation system forward in a way that is great for every citizen in the state of Washington. So thank you for the opportunity.
All righty. All right. Thanks, everybody.